So what do I do when I need to make a holster for a model of gun I don't personally have in my collection or have a pattern for? It comes up occasionally, and unfortunately you can never really be sure that it will fit. And with leather there's always some break-in, like a pair of boots. In this case, I need to make a custom leather holster for a Smith & Wesson Schofield. Fortunately, I was able to find an STL online, which means I can simply print a non-functioning prop of one for fitting purposes. Okay, I'm going to start the leatherworking in just a few seconds, but this segues into the sponsor of this video, Elegoo. Now, if you've watched my channel for a while, you've seen lots of ways you can incorporate 3D printing into your leatherwork, and that's just the stuff I've shown in my videos. There's a lot more. I've bought no less than 3 Elegoo machines myself before now, the last one being their Saturn S model. I don't know, I guess maybe someone at Elegoo saw me using it in one of my videos and reached out to ask if I wanted to try the most current version of their Saturn line, the Saturn 4 Ultra. So thanks to Elegoo for sending me this machine to try out. I'll touch back on it later in the video, but for now let me go ahead and get started on the holster, just so I'm not front loading the video with a bunch of tech stuff. Okay, I actually need a new maker's mark before I go any further. I had one made from Delrin years ago, but it chipped after a fall from the workbench, so I haven't had one since. Resin printers are perfect for this. So here's the magic liquid, the photopolymer resin. I could only find this blue that wasn't transparent in this kind of sky colored here, so, you know, bear with me here. I'm going to be using that for the rest of the video. I've shown this in a previous video, more detailed about making your own stamps, but I've taken my logo vector file and uploaded it to Tinkercad so I can extrude it and make it a 3D object. Pretty simple. Oh, don't forget to mirror your stamp so that it reads the right way when you use it. I've done that more than once. That little thing on the side, the orange thing, that is a custom stamp that I'm working on. That's for something else. I then bring it to Chitabox, which is the slicer I use to run the printer. Oh, by the way, all this software that you see so far is free. Comparing this machine to my previous Elegoo machines, first of all, the Saturn IV Ultra can be run off Wi-Fi, always a plus in my book. The display is small, but still very usable. UI is pretty intuitive. I really wish my FDM printer had preview pics to select from. Then again, that machine is ancient by comparison. So I have a lot more subscribers than I did in my previous video when I explained all this, but here's how Resin 3D printer works again. It all centers around the magic liquid, the photopolymer resin. It's basically a liquid that crystallizes or solidifies when exposed to a certain wavelength of UV light. The printer is composed of a resin vat with a bottom made of a flexible transparent membrane that sits on top of an LED screen designed to project at that wavelength of UV light. In the Saturn IV Ultra, this screen is a 12K ultra high resolution. The build plate drops down into the resin within a hair's width of that screen, and a paper-thin cross-section of your model is flashed, solidifying that slice of the model onto the build plate. Now, in a typical resin printer, that build plate will lift back up and then drop back down a few thousandths higher than it was the last time, and the next cross-section is solidified to the previous, over and over again, thousands of times. In the Saturn IV Ultra, this process is slightly different, and which is why I was really interested in this particular machine. Instead of the build plate rising up and coming back down, the vat itself tilts down simultaneously while the build plate rises. The advantage to this, as I understand it, is that it's a gentler peeling motion on the print rather than straight pull-off, leading to less failures. More importantly, the build plate doesn't have to spend time rising up and then coming back down. It just has to rise slightly. This results in faster prints, something up to 2 to 3 times faster. And I can independently verify this. This printer seems to print really fast, well, as far as 3D printing goes comparatively. By the way, on the Saturn IV Ultra, that build plate is self-leveling, and I don't even know how that works. But if you've had any of the previous machines, you know what a convenience factor that's going to be. Here's a critique. Why haven't flexible, removable build plates become standard yet? I'm still chiseling prints off like the old days. Fortunately, you can add these aftermarket, which I will do here, but still. First thing after a print, we have to wash off all that excess resin that's still coating the model and then fully cure it. Elegoo was also cool enough to send me the Mercury cleaning and curing stations. Now, these machines are not absolutely necessary. They're kind of an additional add-on. I wash cured prints in a bucket and simply set the washed prints out in the sun for years. But they do make the printing experience much more convenient, and they're often purchased as additional add-ons in a package. And onto the curing station. It's going to shine UV light onto the prints to fully cure it. You see, resin prints don't come out of the printer fully ready to go. You have to bake them a little bit more in UV light. Again, you can also just set the prints out in the sunlight. But a curing station like this is going to give your prints a little bit more even exposure. And my favorite part of this machine is that light on the bottom that hits the underside of your model. My previous curing station didn't have this, and I had to turn the print upside down or on its side to get an even exposure. So there's lots of places to get STLs for 3D printing. Google is your friend here. But I purchased this Schofield model from Cults.com. No, it can't actually shoot, it's just a prop, but it's the exact dimensions of the real thing, so it's exactly what I need. But you can also buy models off of Etsy. Thingiverse is an old standby. Just make sure that the models are designed for printing. Sometimes digital models are just that. A digital model intended for gaming that actually can't be printed in real life. Here's another cool feature of the Saturn IV Ultra. It's onboard camera. Love onboard cameras. You can use this to monitor prints remotely or film cool time-lapse videos like this. Important safety note, you always want to wear gloves when working with 3D resin. I also wear eye protection. Contact can cause allergic reactions and chemical burns. Resin is just one of those things that no matter how careful you are, it has the potential to come into contact with items that you just don't want it to. That's why I like this plastic bib Elegoo provides to provide some sort of protection to the machine when removing prints.